afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, June the 12th. I'm Zach Ewing with Jim Derry, and LSU is going to Omaha as they put on the scoreboard, the GEAUX going
Omaha.
to Omaha. Yeah, I kind of lean into that a little bit too much, but I suppose when you do something like that, you can celebrate however the hell you want to celebrate. And LSU back at the College World Series for the first time since 2017. And really the whole weekend, we'll get more into this as we go on, but the whole weekend, Jim, was really just a reminder of how great college baseball at Alex Box Stadium can be when it's a big game atmosphere.
It really is. And, we had a weird situation Saturday. Uncle Big Nick and I were supposed to go. It didn't work out. We couldn't sit through the whole delay, but we got to, we were there for a few hours before the game. And, you ended up going in our place afterwards. But even though we didn't get to see the game, we did get to enjoy some of the atmosphere. And it's different, man. It's different. You can't fathom that it's like this. You get spoiled, I guess, if you're an LSU fan, because it's really, I'm sure it's not like this at most other parks, unless there's probably a handful in the SEC that are like this. We were talking with Robert Young. They had a record number of people at their last super regional game, but you just can't imagine that it's like this at Florida. That you can't imagine it's like this elsewhere.
Yeah, what would be a fun project is to do a tour and do a weekend at the box and do a weekend at A&M and Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Florida, like compare and contrast. It'd be expensive, but it would be a lot of fun because I do think some of those places, Duty Noble Field, the Swayze, however they pronounce it, like some of those places have gotten to the point where they're close, but like the box is the original, right? Like they're all trying to replicate what the box does. And
that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, to see the OG on the block be back at its rockin' self. And hosted a super regional in 4 years. It was 2019, the last time that they hosted a super regional. Would have had a chance in 2020, and of course the postseason, the whole season was wiped out.
I'm going to bring that up a little bit in my rant later.
Yeah, it was fun to see, and we're going to talk a lot about that. We got a lot to talk about. Bayou Bets is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, and we would love it if you would check out Caesars at NOLA.com/Caesars if you're not signed up. We'd also love it if you'd sign up for our Bayou Bets YouTube channel. I think we're stuck on 99 subscribers.
Yeah, we're on 99.
I would really like to think that of the 50,
somebody out there, one of you out there,
I know most of you are not watching on that channel because we, like most of you are on Facebook, it looks like right now. Or Twitter, but go over to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel and just hit subscribe. Like, get us to 100. It's just driving me crazy. We're at 99. Come on, one person. Even better, 3 or 4 people do it. Come on. There's Jerry. I'm sure he's
Jerry, and it's 2 days away from his birthday, and today is a special day. It is some lady named Drea Derry. It's her birthday today. So as soon as we celebrate, as soon as we get done here on the show, we're going to celebrate. You know how she told me? Now, this is a true mom right here. She wants to celebrate her birthday, and the kids don't know this yet, by going to Chuck E. Cheese. I thought she was joking at first.
No kidding.
If that's what you want, that's where we'll go.
Absolute best place my wife would choose to celebrate.
I thought it would be for us too, but she wants the kids to have fun, so that's where we're going when this show's over.
That's amazing. Happy birthday to Mrs. Derry and to Jerry too in a couple of days. So
Derry and Jerry.
Yeah, that's right. Our headlines for today. LSU, of course, reaches the College World Series. Lots to talk about there. There's 2 more spots in Omaha up for grabs. Those will be decided this evening. I think Tennessee Southern Miss first pitch is about an hour from now. NBA Finals Game 5 also tonight. I don't think anyone really thinks realistically the Nuggets are not going to win this thing now, but I guess the question is, will it be tonight? Arcangelo wins the Belmont Stakes, and so did Jim again. He won another horse race.
Did. Thanks. I got to give a shout out to my boy, Mike Prange. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he is helped me. I don't know a ton about a horse racing. I mean, I know the basics and I go through and I study like everything else. I don't bet anything without looking at something. Very rarely. I do every now and then just for fun if I want to watch for $10 or whatever. But he said, I love Arcangelo. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's roll with it. Let's put him in an exacta box. He did it with he put him in an exacta box with Forte and Tapit Trice. And turns out I should have done a trifecta box with those 3 because we'd have won that too. But and then I went and put a little extra little side chunk on Arcangelo to win. So it was another good weekend. Not as good as Derby weekend, but it was still pretty good.
Too bad Triple Crown season is over for your sake.
Yeah,
And
I'll be able to do it again until May.
yeah, and then next weekend we have the U.S. Open at Los Angeles Country Club, which I think, I mean, everything you hear, like you've had Andy Lack on Datitude before, and he's just raved about this course, and he lives out in L.A., and so we know. But it just sounds like it's a shot maker's course. Like you're not just going to be able to go out there and bomb this course. So we'll talk some U.S. Open too. That starts on.
Although one of the biggest bombers is I think is my favorite, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that pick, but we'll get into that. Jerry says Denver's closing out the series. I think that's probably right. Horace says spent many days at LSU watching baseball. Yeah, the early '90s, man. That's when it was born. Late '80s, early '90s.
And he didn't have a kid then.
It's just
he didn't have Spencer anyway.
Spencer wasn't even a twinkle in his eye then, man.
No.
Spencer's a young cat. All right, let's talk about LSU. Let's get into it. LSU's in Omaha. They swept Kentucky 14-0 on Saturday. They hit 6 homers, and then Sunday's game was much tighter. They jumped out to a 5-1 lead. Kentucky, I actually thought Kentucky might. There was a couple innings where I thought Kentucky was in good shape to come back and win that game. It was 5-3. They were putting runners on. LSU was going quietly on offense. And then Dylan Cruz came up and hit the 2-run double in the ninth that really put the game away, and they won.
Yeah, but Datitude magic, baby. Datitude magic. Cade Beloso. Yeah. He comes on Datitude and then goes and hits a 3-run bomb to give LSU the lead.
Yeah, turned out to be a pretty easy trip to Omaha. By the way, I didn't realize this, or maybe I did and had forgotten. This is LSU's 19th College World Series, which sounds like a lot. That actually only breaks a tie to get them to 7th all time. Texas has been to 36 College World Series.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, and they might go to.
Well, how many of them are under Augie Garrido?
A lot. But so yeah, 19. They're only halfway to Texas, really, or just over halfway. But nonetheless, LSU.
But you got
among the favorites.
And as you bring this up, one quick somber moment. A former LSU player, and because LSU didn't get into its baseball heyday until the late 80s with Skip Bertman, but a former LSU player back in the 70s whom I worked with at the Times-Picayune for many years, over a decade, in the St. Tammany Bureau, Robert Roden, passed away this a few days ago, and so it was a tough blow for someone like me and anyone who ever worked with him or dealt with him. Great guy, and LSU through and through. And in fact, 2 days before he died, and he was in the hospital, and he had to wear. I wasn't in there, but my friends were telling me that were able to go. They had to wear like basically a hazmat suit to go in there because he couldn't have any germs whatsoever. But they were in there watching the LSU game with him last week, and he was like living and dying over every pitch. So I'm an LSU through and through, and that's how Tigers are, man. That's how Tigers fans are. They bleed purple and gold, and I know it works the same way for a lot of other guys. But man, it was a tough blow, and I know he's up there watching LSU go to Omaha again.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the passion, man. And Uncle Big Nick, got to thank you for the tickets. I was there a while. I was there from we got there a little before 6. Game was supposed to start at 7. We'd been there about 15 minutes. Says, oh, no, it's going to start at 8. And then you knew it wasn't going to start at 8 because that's when the storm started rolling.
Started at 9.
I started at 9. Luckily, it was a fairly quick game. We were out of there by 11:30 or so. I was home by midnight.
And for college baseball, it was fairly quick, and so was last night. Well, last night was a little longer.
Last night was a little longer.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer.
Kentucky changed pitchers about 10 times
in
the last 2.
Well, and they did it like 4 times in one inning. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Made it a lot longer. All right, so LSU is through to Omaha. Let's look at the odds. The Tigers have been the second favorite here for the last month or so after spending most of the season as the national title favorite. And I find this interesting, these odds, because Wake Forest and LSU are on the same side of the bracket. Like if they both win on Saturday, they will play on Monday in the winner's bracket game. And so only one of them can make the championship series. That to me shows maybe some value on Florida and Virginia and TCU who are on the other half.
Well, I mean, I'm going to stick with my prediction from before, and I said before I think it's LSU versus Florida in the championship series, and I think that is the case still. With that, is there enough value to bet them? I certainly would not bet Wake Forest, even if you like Wake Forest. You can't bet them at plus 275. Wake Forest to me is not battle tested at all. I just don't think they've played anyone worth a darn to get here. Even Alabama. I mean, they had a tight game with Alabama. Really could have lost game 1. Then went and blew the doors off of them in game 2. And Alabama's middle of the road in the SEC. So I think LSU and Florida the favorites. If Tennessee, look, LSU fans ought to be nothing. I know Southern Miss fans might give me grief for saying this, but if you're an LSU fan, you want Southern Miss to win tonight. Tennessee is a much better team. Again, that doesn't mean they're gonna win this game tonight, because when it comes down to one game after you've already played 2, anything can happen. But Tennessee is gonna be a tough out, and anybody in the SEC really. But so we'll see what happens. That could end up being a tough bracket if Tennessee gets in there.
Yeah, it could be. I think it is the tougher of the 2 brackets. I mean, in defense of Wake Forest, I will say, they won a series against. In fact, they swept Clemson at Clemson. They were the number 4 national seed. They swept Miami, who was the number, I think, 9 national seed.
ACC.
They did not play a series against Virginia. Incidentally, they haven't played Virginia. So, I wouldn't say they haven't played anybody. Certainly, they did not survive the SEC, where even bad teams are good.
Put those odds up for a second.
But
Oral Roberts at 2,200 is interesting. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but man, they're feisty. I wouldn't want to play them. I mean, they're so scrappy that you probably, if you get them against it like a Skeens, that they're not going to beat you. But if you get them against some middle of the road, second, third pitcher, man, they blew that 8-0 game and still came back and won that series. Is amazing to me, because who comes back after losing? You lose an 8-0 lead. You got to think they're done. They're I might put a couple bucks on them. I'm going to be rooting for them as long as they don't play LSU.
They're only the 3rd regional 4 seed to reach Omaha.
Yeah, like Nick said.
And to some point, I mean, Stony Brook, like
Dallas Baptist.
Well, the other one was Fresno State in 2008, and they won the national title.
So I mean, I think that's actually worth. I'm not saying go bet $100 on it and try to win 2,200 and hit it big, but I mean, put $5 on it. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, look, baseball's a sport, and every sport's like this to a certain extent, but baseball certainly is a sport where if you get on a roll, it's hard to stop you. And they'd won 21 in a row. Coastal Carolina, I think they were a regional 3 seed, but they won the national title. If you get on a roll, it's hard to stop you. And right now, clearly, Oral Roberts has won 23.
They certainly believe in themselves.
No, the competition hasn't been great, but they did knock Oklahoma State out of that regional. That was the national number 11 seed. Then they knocked out Oregon.
In Oregon.
So, I don't think it's crazy to say that they could certainly. And the thing about 22-1 is you just need them to get down. Let's say they can get into the last 4, and then you can start really hedging.
Yeah.
At that point, if you really don't
put a couple bucks on it just for fun. So.
I agree with that. All right, we're going to get mean here. We have a poll question for you, and you go to bet.nola.com and bet. And
mean rhymes with Skeens.
Yeah, we decided to get a little feisty here. We're going to make LSU fans choose. Who's more important to this team? Who's more important in Omaha? Dylan Cruz or Paul Skeens? That's a hard answer, man.
It is hard, but it's easy all at the same time, in my opinion. I'm always, not always, but more likely than not going to side, especially if they're equal and on their level, I think they're equal. Although Dylan Cruz has been kind of like quiet until game 2 of yesterday. But I think it's Cruz, because I think that of course, you always want to call Paul Skeens games must wins, but I think Dylan Cruz has got to come up big in this series, and he plays every day. So I'm going to pick Dylan Cruz. I'm going to pick Dylan Cruz in this one.
Yeah. Do you choose the everyday guy, or do you choose the guy? And I'll just to be contrarian, because I'm torn, I'll go Skeens, just because I think the ability to throw a guy out there and say, hey, we're going to have I don't care who we play Tennessee.
We're winning this game.
We're going to have the advantage, and we're going to be in the winner's bracket. That, like, nobody else can say that.
And the thing for LSU is, I mean, the way that it's set up now, it's really, you can only pitch them twice. I mean, you might be able to use them in relief at some point later, but the way that it's set up, if you pitch them, even if they pitch on Saturday, I mean, the championship series starts the following Saturday. So it's probably not going to pitch. You got to hope you make it to the championship for him to pitch, and then he would pitch game one of that.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, maybe you bring him back, and this is a little bit of foreshadowing. If you keep his pitch count under control, maybe you could bring him back in an elimination type game later on, and then
maybe.
pitch game 2 of the championships. I mean, you can kind of play those games at this time of year because the finish line is in sight.
Really?
But
That doesn't drive with your rant, really.
Look, and I'm going to try to be reasonable with my rant. I know you're looking forward to that, but newsflash, it has to do with what Stanford did last night. I just look. I think that Skeens gives you such a huge edge in those games, and look, you saw Kentucky try to be aggressive against the guy, and we're seeing more and more teams do that because if you get behind in the count against Paul Skeens, you're toast. You are toast, and so they try to be aggressive and hit early in the count, but he doesn't.
Then they start dropping curveballs.
Yeah, a lot of these guys who throw 102. If you can square them up, you're going to hit the ball a long way. They don't seem to be able to square them up very often.
No.
And so
who can at that level?
I will be curious to see, and we'll bring this back up one more time. I will be very curious to see if LSU plays Wake Forest. At that point, you would not have Skeens. I mean, this is not the regional. You don't play games. You're going to throw Skeens in the first game, against Southern Miss or Tennessee. And then assuming LSU wins that game, Wake Forest is super interesting to me, and I get your point. They didn't play in the SEC. They probably got more breathers than LSU did throughout the course of the year. But that lineup, boy, can they hit.
Well, look what they did to Alabama's second pitcher. So
yeah, they turned around and hit 7 on Alabama. Actually, I think it was more like 9 homers.
And Floyd did not pitch well yesterday.
So, that'll be a fascinating matchup. What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's say Ty Floyd pitches, and I don't even know who Wake Forest number 2 is. But he wasn't super sharp. I mean, Alabama hit a couple.
He wasn't very good. Yeah.
What's the over/under in that game next Monday if it's LSU and Wake Forest?
If it's anything less than 12, I'm betting the over, baby.
Oh well, even when Skeens pitches, it's 11 in these games. So I think you're looking.
Really? I'd say that shows you how much I don't look at that.
These college games have high. I mean, let's look at today's 2 super regional games. There, Southern Miss Tennessee is 12, and Texas Stanford is 14. So yeah, they're going to have higher over/unders. I mean, but I think in that game you may get a 17 or an 18.
We'll see. Looks like the weather is not going to be as hot in Omaha as it is here, which would be hard to do because it's blasting hot. But that's another thing. We ran, and I'm all over the place today, but ran into some Kentucky fans and had some nice little chats with them. I mean, seriously, they were cool people. I don't think that I've really had a chance to talk to Kentucky fans before, except maybe in basketball a little bit. But reminded them that this was baseball and not basketball, and they chuckled. But there was this one guy as we were leaving Saturday, and we decided we were leaving, and Nick can contest this. This guy walks up, and he was like not walking up to us, but we were in a truck trying to pull out. Guy walks up, he's got like this towel over his head, and he's dying. And he's got his Kentucky shirt on. I mean, it looked like somebody put him through a furnace and he couldn't walk through the other side. He was absolutely miserable. And I said, yeah, man, you having a little trouble? He goes, it's hot, man. It's hot, man. I'm like, okay, well,
it's probably not.
You're going to come in July, August.
It just ain't the same.
Well, it's not the same. And I think that the deal is in Kentucky, it's probably only like this for a couple months out of the year and without as much humidity. And as Nick says, with the big dip in his mouth. Yeah, he did have that. But he goes, I don't know how y'all deal with this, man. I can't do it. I'm like, it's only June, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had fun at the game. It was you talk about the series, but to me, I think that it's going to need to be a lot like it was both days, yesterday and on Saturday, where pretty much every hitter got into the action a little bit, right? I mean, Tommy Tanks with those blasts. I told, we had come home and I texted Nick. I'm like, you better go check your truck windshield over in Marrero because I think he might have hit it that far. Those blasts, but he's going to need to be big and really everybody's going to need to step up and have a part of it. I think, Zach.
That's LSU's advantage over anybody is the depth of that lineup. And I mean, obviously. Yeah. Having Cruz and White at the top and the way Trey Morgan hit this weekend, those guys at the top.
Man, Trey Morgan was.
But I mean, here's the point. And the Kentucky manager said this after the series is like, look, the problem with LSU is you feel like you did a good job against Cruz and White, and then you got to face Morgan,
Right.
and then you got to face
Right.
Peloso, and then you got to face Travinsky,
Travinsky. Yeah.
like, and all of a sudden, and even down in the lineup, Jordan
Yeah.
Thompson and Pearson, and these guys can all hit. They've got,
And then
I think
Jordan Thompson
Morgan,
was doing his Derek Jeter impression yesterday
Gavin
from
Dugas,
shortstop.
they've got what are they? Morgan hit the 2 homers on Saturday. He now has
Saturday.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's 7 guys, I think. No, maybe it's 8 guys who have 9 homers in that lineup or more. And so there's nowhere to hide if you're a pitcher. And that's where, if they're going to win the national title, it's going to be because of that. Yes.
I think that's more important than either Cruz or Skeens, in my opinion. You know, we didn't put that on there on the poll question, but you know, it's hard to say who's more important, Cruz, Skeens, or the rest of the lineup. I mean, but you know, I think it's more important they stay consistent like they've been staying. And I said, going to the SEC tournament, we both said we didn't like them in the SEC tournament because, frankly, it didn't benefit them to win the SEC tournament. They played like they were playing preseason, lying in the weeds. And Cade said this on Datitude the other day. He said, look, we've been thinking about Omaha our entire lives here at LSU. That's what we've been thinking about. So, I'm not, he didn't come out and say, I don't want to win the SEC tournament, but he did say that's where our focus has been. And we knew once we started these regionals and super regionals, that's where we were shifting all of our attention, because this was their last shot. I'm going to get more into that in a little bit in my rant, but they did it. They did what they set out to do. In fact, besides one game against Oregon State that was 6-5, none of them were really that close.
And by the way, if you are headed up to Omaha, I'm going up and I'm staying at the Harrah's Casino in Council Bluffs, which is, it's a different city. It's right across the river. It's 2 miles from, what do they call it now? Charles Schwab Field. And it's a good place to stay. It's not as expensive as you would think for a Harrah's property. And then I believe they're sold out at least this Saturday night, but they do have rooms at their Hilton Garden Inn at the Horseshoe in Council Bluffs, which is just like 2 more miles down the freeway. Still just a 15-minute drive from the ballpark. So I encourage people to check that out. If you're still trying to plan that trip, it's tough to plan it right now between the flights and the hotels and the rental cars and all that. But I would look at the Hilton Garden Inn at the Horseshoe. And then if you're going later in the week, Harrah's does have rooms next week as well.
I'm a little pissed that you didn't push for a sidekick. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, there's beds available by the river. That's all I mean.
Down by the river.
All right, let's move on. We'll talk some NBA Finals. Game 5 is tonight. For some reason in my head, I kept calling this game 4. And maybe that's because
we still can't believe the Heat won one.
Yeah, the Nuggets should have swept this series. The Heat caught fire from 3 and won one game by 3 points in game 2. They do get Tyler Hero back tonight. And when that was announced, the line shifted from -9 to -8.5. Does Tyler Hero do anything for you here?
No. I mean, I'm not betting this game. I win, I'm waiting for my Nuggets. It's funny because I don't remember which book I have my futures on for Nuggets and then my Heat hedge. But my Heat hedge, they're like offering me, I think, like 1/10 of what I put in. And the Nuggets bet is basically, here, you can have your money. So I'm not going to cash it out. You'd think I'd learn my lesson from the Titans AFC South bet, but I haven't. But
do you cash out the Heat bet at this point? I mean,
for like $3.
I mean, it's $3 you're not going to have otherwise.
No, because you know why? I'd kick myself in the derriere, so to speak, if the Heat, some miracle, great storyline. I mean, as it was, I was kicking myself for not hedging on the Heat a little bit when the Celtics were down 3-0. I thought maybe I should put a couple bucks on the Celtics, and I didn't. And then I was kicking myself, and then I got lucky. I mean, let's face it, I got kind of lucky there.
Tyler Hero, great name for a comeback player. I just don't know. I mean, I've been saying this. I said this last week.
I'm calling him Harrow anyway. It's spelled Harrow.
They've got to hit threes to win, and Tyler Hero does help. I mean,
they're desperate.
He is a shooter.
They can't stop Jokic, and they can't stop Murray.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you go from like a 10% chance to win tonight to like a 20% chance to win, or 15 to 20% because maybe Hero gets open a few times. But I mean, guys come back from these long layoffs, and this was a wrist injury, right? Like, how do we know he's even going to be himself?
Well, you know what Tina Turner said, right? We don't need another Hero.
The Heat do.
They need
The
about
Heat
5 of
absolutely.
them.
Yeah,
I just look. I joke about all this, but even if somehow the Heat squeeze out one night, which I don't see, if you were going to force me to bet, I think the Heat, with their coaching, I think they will play a good game. I think it will be fairly close. And when I say fairly close, 6, 8, maybe 10. So if you were forcing me to make a pick, I would take the Heat plus 8.5. But I'm not betting on this with your money.
Yeah, I don't.
There's
What
no
about the
reason
over?
to.
Because we've had 3 of the first 4 games went under.
I like the
And
under. I'm
most
not
of
going to
them
buck the trend.
yeah,
They keep
most of them
lowering
were
it, and it
under
keeps
that.
going under again. They keep lowering.
Yeah.
It started, I think game 1 was like 215.5. And they keep lowering and keep lowering, and it still goes under. And there's no reason to bet the over now. So, I mean, if you want to bet something to me, that's the best bet of the entire thing. I like the under. I'm not going
By
to
the way,
bet the game, but I like the under.
the game Heat won was the game that went
The
over.
only one that
Barely,
went over, right?
but it did. So, maybe
So the
you
Heat need to hit
consider
threes if they're gonna go over.
maybe you consider that parlay with that narrative, like, hey, if the Heat have a chance tonight, is because they're going to shoot the ball well, especially from 3, and that's going to make this game go over. So, if, maybe you consider a Heat over parlay. Something to consider if you do like that
for $2,
narrative.
maybe.
Yeah. This is just an example of how lopsided this is. The series odds right now. I mean, you just can't bet the Nuggets unless you want to win a couple pennies. The Heat 20-1 to win the series. But even Nuggets minus 1.5 games, meaning they either win it in game 5 or game 6, you're paying minus 1,500 for that.
That's insane. Which is the only way to bet this if you actually want to bet it. I mean, you don't bet it anyway, but if you wanted to, you're determined to put down $15 to win $1, then go for it. That's the way you would never bet Nuggets to win the series. It's not going 7. It's just not going 7. The Nuggets can win just as easy in Miami as they can in Denver.
This is how little the odds makers believe in Miami, Jim. I mean, the Heat, just to force a game 7 is plus 800. And that would be on the road. I mean, there'd be significant dogs even at that point.
Not to diss our partners, but the lopsided juice in this just goes to show you just can't. These sorts of things, this is where they make their money. I mean, the difference in the numbers, if it's minus 10,000, I understand you can't make it plus 10,000, but why isn't it like plus 5,000?
Well, or
make it minus 8,000 and plus 4. I mean, come on, man. That's absurd.
The only thing I'll say is, and it's similar anywhere you look, and the reason is because the theoretical hold on these is still about 20%. It's still like if you add up the implied probabilities, it's still 120% like it is anywhere else. And so, when you have one that's basically you're saying the Nuggets are 99% to win, then the Heat. I guess you could make it a little higher.
So you're only giving me 20-1 if you're saying 99%.
Yeah,
this is a perfect example that you really can, and I can't say never say never, right? But almost never bet these sorts of things. And I say it all the time, and I think in this one, and I said 3 weeks ago, I don't even know, but once you missed the boat, you missed the boat. Don't try to catch up. You can't catch up. It's done. So you missed it. It's okay.
One thing you can bet on, which I don't know that I would do this yet either before the draft and free agency, but the 2024 NBA title odds are out. Nuggets are the favorites. Celtics are second. Bucks are third. No surprises here. Do we see the Nuggets as a team that could kind of become a dynasty?
Yeah, but you say that every year about everybody. I mean, remember when the Warriors last year? Nobody's going to beat them next year. I mean, things happen. Every team
is healthy this year. That's one thing they haven't.
They have, and they're fairly young for the most part. I don't like betting favorites the next year. It's like even going to the NFL this year. I mean, I haven't done my work, so I'm not telling you that who I think is going to win the Super Bowl next year. But would I bet on Kansas City? No. I just don't like betting on favorites. It doesn't happen a whole lot. It happens, but it doesn't happen a whole lot. I'd rather find me a value. And again, I'm not going to bet this right now. There's no reason to bet these sorts of things right now. But if you think you spot a value, then go ahead and go for it. Certainly Lakers at plus 1,200. Well, they're going to go get Joe Blow and they're going to go get Chris Paul in free agency. And they're still the Lakers. The Lakers should be like 2,500. They're another example of juiced up odds. I mean, you look at these odds, they're ridiculous. So if there's any value in there and all, maybe it's Golden State at 1,200. If you want to go put a few bucks on the Pels at plus 3,000.
To me, that one is that they're showing too much respect to the Pelicans. We really think
I don't disagree. No
3% chance of winning the I don't think so.
Yeah, 3% maybe.
I will say the two names I'll throw out here, and I'm not sure I like the numbers. And like I said, you got to wait unless you have a real strong inkling of who's going to get a major trade or free agent or something. The Clippers at 15-1. They're a little bit like the Nuggets in that they have all this talent and have just not been able to stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, you've got a different team there, just like Denver did this year. But they're older. And then the other one would be Dallas at 13-1. I think they got to get rid of Kyrie. But if they get rid of Kyrie, all of a sudden you've got Luka there. Maybe they find a better fit for him in the backcourt. And 13-1 is not terrible there for the Mavericks.
Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think I would bet that. But I get why you would. And you I guess you're looking at them as kind of like the Nuggets are now.
That's why I bet on the Nuggets at 20-1 before this season. Not just a couple dollars, $5. I win $100 hopefully tonight. But if you're looking for a team like that, I'm looking at the Clippers, maybe the Mavs, a team that, hey, the talent is there. They just didn't put it together. Phoenix, maybe, but you're paying a real premium on
It's
Phoenix.
just too early. I just wait and see.
And yeah, I agree.
Because you know what? It's some teams the Lakers are going to sign somebody like Chris Paul and it's going to make other teams' numbers go down. So, and I wouldn't bet the Lakers. I mean, somebody could give me a gift certificate to bet the Lakers, and I'd find some way to use it somewhere else. Because I'm not betting on the Lakers. Yeah, I don't know there's no way I'm betting on the Lakers. I think they're a mess. And you're talking about LeBron now going to be 39 and AD. There is no guarantee. And AD, even if he stays, I mean, look, he's getting older. He's now like legitimate age to where injuries are a problem, right? And they were a problem anyway. So he ain't staying healthy next year. So I'm not betting on the Lakers. Not going to happen.
That is the truth. Yeah. All right, move on to our final topic of the day, or not our final topic, but our next topic is the U.S. Open. Starts at Los Angeles Country Club on Thursday. I think this is going to be a real fun course. Scotty Scheffler. Yeah. Let's just say this. I got paid off for saving him in one and done this long. I am going to use Scotty this week because I just think, look,
I could if I want to.
But I think he's clearly your favorite. Now, having said that, I don't know. I could see this going a lot of different ways.
Well, he's had a tough time putting. However, this course is not necessarily the toughest course to putt on. None of them are easy, and especially in a major. So I don't think you can write him off. 650 is too low. I'm not betting on him. If you want to take him in one and done, great. I think the winner is going to come from this list, though. I do think it's a favorite kind of thing. Wouldn't surprise me if Jon Rahm had a really good week at all. He's not played Jon Rahm type golf as of late, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's up there. Man, Hovland, I just don't trust Hovland in this scenario. He's too young. I think he's gonna be really good, and I know he won the last tournament he's in, but I think Rory's to me the value of the big boys at plus 1,200. And again, I'll do more. I'll go diving in tomorrow. I'm going to spend a lot of tomorrow looking at golf, but and I know I really like Hatton at 2,800. The problem is, he'll play so bad one day, and then the next day he's better than anybody on the planet. And the defending champion Matt Fitzpatrick at plus 3,000. Those are guys that I preliminarily like, but I think I'm probably going to go with Rory.
I think Koepka could compete. I don't think you can bet him at 900. Same thing with Hovland.
Absolutely not.
You can't bet him at that number. I'd rather have Cantlay or Schauffele at those at 16 or 20-1. The other name that catches my eye on this list, and we've got another page of longer shots. Tony Finau was like 18-1 at the PGA Championship, and now he's double that. I realize he's not playing that well, but you can get Tony Finau at 35-1.
Yeah, he had been really good until a couple tournaments ago. He kind of lost it a little bit. I don't think I'm on Finau there, but there's all this talk. Yeah, Rory. Okay, well, we'll see about that. I don't believe that. I think I understand why. Me and Uncle Big Nick have been talking about how Rory's been terrible on Sundays as of late. I think he's had a lot of.
If he's not in contention, he plays great on Sundays. If he is,
yeah, I think he's had a lot of pressure on him with all this live PGA crap, and I think that's going to take a back seat this week. Now, I think there'll be plenty of talk on it. If you don't want to hear that, you need to turn your sound off and just watch the golf without the sound on, because they're going to be talking about it incessantly all weekend. However, I think some of the pressure is actually going to come off of Rory now. I like the way he's playing overall. Again, I don't like the way he played on Sunday, but he knows that his chances to win majors are pretty close to coming to an end. I mean, he's 35 years old. His days of being elite are almost over. So I think you're going to see a big push from him in this. Major's a different world, right? I mean, it's a different world than just playing in the Canadian Open or whatever else. So I think Rory's going to be at his best, and I especially like him to find ways to make some birdies where other players can't and get out of trouble.
Yeah, see, my problem with Rory is I think he'll make some birdies that other players can't, and then he'll make a double or a triple here or there that other players won't too, because he's going to fire at a pin, and this is a course where
that's okay though.
You can't hit a triple is okay.
It's okay every now. I mean, you look at what happened yesterday with Tyrrell Hatton, and he doubled and still almost won. I mean, so triple's not okay now.
Shout out to Adam Hadwin.
Oh man, that dude
gets tackled on the green. For those of you who missed it, and I
go look it up. Go look it up.
Into golf, you probably weren't watching the Canadian Open, but especially not while LSU was playing at the same time. But Nick Taylor, a Canadian, wins the Canadian Open with a 72-foot eagle putt, which is incredible in and of itself. But the other thing about this is that Canadian, they all always enter the Canadian Open. None of them ever win it. They always come close, and then they find a way to fritter it away on Sunday. Well, Nick Taylor, who is one of the least likely Canadians to win this thing, hits a 72-foot eagle putt on 18 to win, and a bunch of his Canadian buddies, including Adam Hadwin, were standing by the green watching him. And when he hits this, Adam Hadwin runs out there with a bottle of champagne to celebrate and is spraying the champagne. And the security guard didn't know who Adam Hadwin was.
Literally tackles him and knocked the ever-loving crap out of him.
Big
dude.
Like he looked like he played football.
He did. He looked like a big dude. He was a big dude.
So anyway, it's pretty.
It all worked out in the end. They hugged it out, and but it was pretty funny. All right. If I ever go to Toronto or wherever the next Canadian Open is, it's not going to be in Toronto most likely, but I'm not going to try to rush the 18th green. I know that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Anybody like over this list, Jim? This is the rest of the guys.
Ricky Fowler, maybe. He's been playing well. 5,500. I might put a buck or two on him.
Hideki off this list. Hideki Matsuyama, 45 to 1. Give me some of that.
He can't put it all together. He looks great for a day and a half, 2 days. Tyrrell Hatton will have an okay day and then a great day and then an okay day and a great day. Hideki will have a really good day, a great day, then a just all-time, just where did that go kind of day, and then fade away. So I'd rather take Sung J M.
Bryson Love at 45 to 1?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. And that's actually down. That was plus 4,000 about a week ago. So yeah. I mean, can you ever rule out JT?
I mean, that was the other one I was going to say is JT is 40 to 1. And by the way, I think if you look around, you might get him at 50 to 1. I saw somebody say, I think it might have been Andy who tweeted out, you can get him at 50 to 1. Which when was the last time Justin Thomas was 50 to 1 at anything?
I don't remember. Yeah. I don't know at all, but I would probably take Ricky Fowler off that list if you were forcing me to take one. Again, tomorrow's my golf day. So
check out bet.com.
We'll have a preview.
Full U.S. Open preview, probably Wednesday morning. That'll be ready. And then we'll talk a little bit. The tournament will be going on, of course, during our show on Thursday, but we'll talk that as well as our College World Series preview. Last topic of the day, USFL. I've resisted talking about this the whole season, but the New Orleans.
You make me talk about soccer.
Yeah. Well, you don't really play ball though. The New Orleans Breakers are in their final game of the regular season, and they're playing the Houston. What are they?
Gamblers.
I looked this up before the show. Well, I like that. And they will be playing. I assume they're playing in Birmingham, right?
No, they're playing in Memphis.
Oh, of course, makes sense.
Well, they have 4 sites.
All right.
And
the Breakers are 4-point favorites, and you tell me they need to win to get into the USFL.
Most likely. I think there's a scenario where they can lose and still get in. I need to go through the tiebreakers because it's funny because all the time, if this were the NFL, they'd have every scenario you could possibly want, but they basically just tell you the tiebreakers. And then, you pretty much have to figure them out on your own. So I will I just didn't have time today to figure them out on my own, but I will do that probably tomorrow as well. But they are 6-3, big win on Saturday that they had a 2-hour lightning delay in Memphis against the Showboats and ended up coming back after it was over and just kept pounding on. They scored 17 points first quarter, won at 31-3. And
I did
they
see
played
the highlight of the Memphis quarterback backpedaling like 20
who
yards.
is in a Southeastern
was
alum. Yeah.
And that turned into a pick 6. So that was
an
ill
Cole Kelly.
decision.
Yeah, he had a rough go.
Cole Kelly's been around a lot. Yeah, former Arkansas guy too.
Yeah. So anyway, he got kind of destroyed yesterday.
See, that's the kind of stuff that would happen in the USFL though.
Yeah,
Interesting though that the Breakers are not in the playoffs yet, and yet they're the second favorite. In fact, pretty similar odds to LSU. Who's got a better chance to win their championship, LSU baseball or the New Orleans Breakers?
The Breakers. Okay. Because it's either going to be Birmingham or the Breakers. Those are the only 2 teams I think have a chance, really. I mean, I guess you're getting a 1-game thing. Anything can happen. But to me, Birmingham is clearly the best team, but not by that much over the Breakers. And the reason why the Generals and the Stars are down there because, the Generals aren't even in yet, I believe. One of those 2 teams is locked up a playoff berth and the other one hasn't. I think the Generals haven't locked up a playoff berth. But the other side of the North, I guess, the North is so much worse. Their leader of the division, I think, is 5-4, and the rest of the team is under 500. Whereas in the South, Birmingham 7-2, the Breakers are 6-3, and the other 2 teams are 5-4, both Memphis and Houston. So, look, the Breakers are the second best team in this league. Clearly, in my opinion, they haven't been great on offense as of late, but they lost 3 games in a row and were bad on defense, and they seem to have gotten it back, and they have a little swagger going. They got a linebacker named Vontae Diggs, who I think is NFL worthy. They got a couple guys I think ought to get a shot in the NFL because they got some attitude on that team, and I like it. And hopefully they'll be playing in New Orleans next year.
Yeah, well, that would help. I think larger conversation here. The XFL came out this week. Is losing a significant amount of money.
The XFL,
the XFL did, and the USFL hasn't reported, but I believe at least last year the XFL had better TV ratings than the USFL did, and so if that's the case this year, and the XFL is already losing significant,
they didn't play last year. The XFL,
did they not?
No, they hadn't played in a few years.
I think what I saw was the XFL ratings were down from the last version of the XFL, but they were on par with last year's. Anyway,
different. It was a different game a little bit.
Here's where I'm going with this. I don't think both of these leagues can survive. I think maybe we see one spring football league survive long term, but I don't. It isn't too much to ask.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that the USFL probably has a better chance to survive. Because they play a little bit. They're first of all, the quality of their players I think is a little bit better. Second of all, they have a better TV contract right now, which is actually going to make a difference. NBC and Fox both on board with the USFL, and for the XFL it was just ESPN and ABC. I agree with you that I don't think both leagues can make it. However, I think they'll both try at least another season. The XFL was quick to quit last time. The USFL seems to be in this for the long haul. So, and from everything I'm hearing, I think there's a very good. I wasn't just saying this. I don't think all 8 teams are going to play at home next year, but I think there's a good chance that at least 1 or 2 more do. And if 1 or 2 more do, the Breakers will almost certainly be playing in New Orleans next year, if that's the case.
Okay. All right. Well,
they're trying to cut down on travel, and they're having central locations, and these teams work together and use the same facilities because they're trying to save as much money as they can. But so when you say the league's losing money, it's as much that the TV, the sponsors are losing money. So that's a story for another day.
Yeah, good thing for them to survive. For those who can't get into football, I like my football the way it is, but again, that's just me.
I will tell you this. Last thing on this before I know you want to move on. Last thing on this, the rules, the NFL people need to take a look at how both the XFL and USFL have integrated complete transparency into their game. They might not like some of these, going for 2, going for 3, the way they go for 2 or go for 3. They may not like the way they do kickoffs, which is different in both leagues. But the complete transparency where you can see and hear what the replay official is talking about, to me, is a major, major deal. And that's definitely something that the NFL needs to look into, as well as putting a chip into that ball. And, you know exactly where it goes.
I do like that part of it. I'll raise this Tulane Stadium or Super. They're not going to play.
Oh, they play at Tulane
or City
Park. No, they're not going to play at City Park. It's a dumb. No, I'm sorry. No offense to the people who, own Ted Gormley Stadium over there, but Ted Gormley is not suitable. Right. Tulane is absolutely the right fit. That would be a great place for them to play, and I think they'd fill it up.
Subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you have not already. I have not looked, but before the show, we were sitting on 99 subscribers. Don't make me beg people. Just go over there.
We got 99 subscribers, and you ain't one.
Yeah, get us to 100. I know. Again, most of you are watching on Facebook or Twitter, but there's still a good number of people watching who I'll bet are not subscribed.
So, then I got a ding for that. Cool.
We're gonna wrap up the show here with our rants, and we're gonna bring it back to college baseball. And for those who did not see, Stanford stayed alive last night. They beat Texas. I think it was 8-3, same score as the LSU game. Quinn Matthews, Stanford starting pitcher, went all 9 innings. He was great with the season on the line, but he threw 156 pitches. I'll say that again, 156 pitches, which is a number that, maybe 40, 50 years ago, people didn't blink at. Well, now that's a hell of a lot. A major league pitcher has not thrown that many pitches since the 90s. And a non-knuckleballer hasn't done it since Roger Clemens in 96. Obviously, Roger Clemens at 35 years old is a bit different than some college kid. And here's the long and the short of it. I'm not one of these guys. Keith Law is really against this on Twitter, where he'll come out and say, has to be 100 pitches or less. We should never go over that. I understand these college teams are chasing something. The college kids are chasing something. They want to be out there. They want to go an extra inning in a big game. And I understand that. But we've got to draw a line somewhere. And I'm not qualified enough to tell you exactly where that line is, but I am damn sure that it is less than 156 pitches, particularly when your team's up by 5 runs in the 9th inning. Why are you getting run back out there? There are scientific links between pitchers, certainly younger than college level, but also at the college level, throwing that many pitches and having injury troubles down the road. Ben McDonald in our own backyard is a perfect example of this, who really was just, I hate to use the word abused, but he was overused by LSU, and then had tremendous shoulder and elbow problems throughout his major league career. Was cut short because of that. We see it over and over. We saw Mark Pryor. We saw it with Steven Strasburg. These guys get overworked in college. They get to the pros, and their arms break down. And so I know there's a lot of variables here, but at some point the kids are going to want to go out there and say, yeah, I can go. We all felt invincible at age 20, and they want to go out there and continue to throw. Someone's got to be the adult in the room. And I personally suggest the damn adults be the adult in the room. And the Stanford coach needs to know, hey, 120 is enough. You gave us the lead. Great job. We've got other pitchers who can take us to the finish line. And you know what? If our other pitchers can't take us to the finish line, then we don't go to Omaha. We didn't deserve it. We're not a one-man team, and we're not going to throw some guy 150 pitches. And I hope LSU never does that with Paul Skeens. I mean, the guy's got a bright future. Don't throw him 150 pitches in Omaha just to see if he can be the hero and ruin his future.
I agree and disagree all at the same time, if that's possible. I agree there needs to be some sort of limits probably, and I think it stems to all the way you can go to, and they're starting to do this now. They've already done it in the LHSAA. They've done it somewhat in Little League. in some little leagues, and they monitor pitches, and they don't do it in Major League Baseball because they coddle their pitches in Major League Baseball. That's a whole nother story. That being said, the problem is not about how many pitches someone makes in a particular game or a week or a season, in my opinion. The problem is, you want to talk about the adults in the room. The real adults in the room should be the parents of little Johnny starting to pitch at age 7 and age 8, because they want their kids to play baseball 11 and 12 months out of the year when their bodies weren't meant to play baseball 11 to 12 months out of the year. In fact, no one's body was meant to play baseball 11 to 12 months out of the year. Now, some guys who are like in rookie leagues and stuff like that are playing in these summer leagues to try to get more seen and things like that. And I get that. So, 2, 3, 4 years here or there, you got to do it. But for 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds to be playing baseball year round is absurd. And that's even if you're only practicing once a week or twice a week and you're playing in tournaments once or twice a week. Kids need a break. They need to play other sports. And so I certainly agree with your initial premise on how this all got started with the kid from Stanford throwing 159 pitches, especially with a 4-run lead going in the ninth or 5-run lead going in the ninth. That's absurd. It shouldn't happen. And I wouldn't be opposed to saying there are limits to how many pitches someone can make in college baseball, and I would probably do it throughout a week. A kid throws 100, make it 130, whatever you wanted to make it. But there are times when I think it's acceptable. And, you go to, I'm going to use this weekend as an example. If you're playing and you got a 2-2 game and you're going into the ninth and Skeens is at 138 pitches, do you yank him? What if, you don't, if you think Skeens is your best chance to win, it's not like you've been overusing him all year. I think there are certain scenarios where it's okay. Probably more not okay than okay. But I just don't, to have a blanket statement just to say that we need adults in the room. I think the adults in the room need to be adults from a long time ago, not in college baseball and professional baseball. That's just my opinion.
Well, look, I don't disagree with you either. I mean, I think there does need to be more accountability in Little League. And let's be honest, little Johnny has a 0.1% chance of becoming a pro.
Yeah,
I mean, it just
exactly. That's not what his parents think.
The chances of this happening are so slim that my son plays club baseball, and we're on a mostly inexpensive club, and we wouldn't do it if it was thousands and thousands of dollars a year. But look, I'm realistic about it. It's fun for him. He's good at it for his age, and he enjoys it, and so we play. But we don't have any dreams of anything, beyond maybe him being.
Well, you're a realistic person, Zach. Yeah. So that's the difference.
And that's what I'm saying. But I do think college baseball, with as visible as it is, and with as much money is on the line now, I mean, these college baseball coaches are now paid 7 figures a year in some cases, six figures a year in all cases. And so there's big money on the line, and we're trying to we're getting to the point where they are willing to risk injury at all costs, and I don't agree with that. And I don't, and I mean, we can sit here and argue about what the line is, but there are studies out there, you can look them up, that show unequivocally that overuse in college contributes to injury as a pro. Or later
you don't want to know on this show what I think about scientific studies, because they're as wrong as much as they're right. So that's a whole nother story. And I don't necessarily want to get into a scientific study debate, because you can find numbers and data to support almost any position you want to support, because we do it all the time here at Bayou Bets when we're talking about stuff we like, and someone will say, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm not into scientific studies. I think they're almost worthless. I got to be honest. And every facet of and almost every facet of life, you could say ridiculous. You could say it's ridiculous all you want.
I encourage you to go read it. I encourage our viewers to go read it.
I've read them. See what it says. I have read them. I have read them. I have read them many times.
But just a blanket statement to say they're worthless makes you
willfully
ignorant.
I didn't necessarily say that.
I mean, you're not looking at the information.
Once again, not a fact. And things you pull out of scientific studies don't make things facts either. So we can have this debate if you want. I mean, I see we've been on for 54 minutes now. But again, a scientific study doesn't make something a fact. It simply doesn't. And so, but again, I'm mostly on your side here. But what you're saying is not fact. It just isn't. And so, I mean, there are cases where the kids and we're calling them kids. They're not kids. They're adults. They're in college. They're adults. Most of them are adults. Kids compared to what? They're of legal age. They're not a kid. I mean, we consider. I call my 25-year-old kid because he's my kid. But you're 21. You're not a kid anymore. And most of these players are over the age of 21, which is a completely different story. So I mean, you're using college baseball. It's not really a good example, to be honest. College baseball is not the best example. I think a better example would be in what they've done to these kids in high school. That I would certainly agree with you, because high school, I've seen some things in my high school career that coaches should be put in jail for some of the things that they've done in high school. And I think there are a lot of high school coaches out there that would agree with me what they've seen. But which is why LSU, and they should have, and they absolutely should have.
They should.
Well, then you're going to get to it. Should they put them in Major League Baseball too?
No, because the major league teams, as I've mentioned to you privately before, already have an incentive to protect those pitchers.
So what if one major league team decides, you know what, we don't care about any of these scientific studies. We're going to go back to I'm just bringing up a complete hypothetical here, and our guy on the mound is the best pitcher we have, and we're going to use him 130 pitches because he says it's okay. I mean, would you then have a problem with it?
Yeah, well, I would have a problem with that too, but I think that the market would correct itself in that scenario, because agents and players would start to steer pitchers away from that franchise.
We make exceptions, and we talk at the sides of our heads all the time.
It's a good discussion. I particularly enjoyed the part where you
I think it's great.
Facts and scientific studies aren't facts, but
because they aren't facts. They are not facts. They simply are not facts. A scientific study doesn't make something a fact. And that's a fact. We can move on. We can move on. This is a great show for July when we have nothing to talk about. I think we should revisit it 100%. All right, my rant today is also along the lines of college baseball, and I think that on a way more positive note than someone making 159 pitches, because we didn't see that in this tournament, and we haven't seen LSU do that for a long time, which is a good thing. Although Paul Skeens did throw
24 against Tulane.
I think I was gonna say he threw a little bit more against Tulane.
That is borderline uncomfortable for me, but depending on the guy, depending on the scenario, like that I think you could make an argument for. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. The point what going into this weekend, and having Cade Beloso on the show, and again, for those who didn't listen, I've known Cade Beloso since he was a junior in high school. I covered him at John Curtis, and he's just a great kid, and his family is outstanding. Always been a pleasure. Always been a great kid to talk to, and he's always been a very good baseball player. So it makes it easy when the star wants to talk to you and is very well spoken. And so not just Cade, but to see Paul Skeens, who hasn't been with this program nearly as long, but Dylan Cruz, who wanted to be a Tiger because he wanted to go to Omaha, and he spent his college career here. Just seeing him get that big hit last night and to come through and hit that double. And, you read the tweet about him today. I think Leah posted it. He didn't feel the pressure, he said, but when he heard that walk-up music for the last time, it got to him a little bit, and he wanted to come through, and he did. And to me, that was a big moment. And there are so many LSU players that were on that field yesterday, and the raw emotion of almost exhaling that we came here at LSU. We never had a chance to go to Omaha. They never had a chance to play a super regional in their home field, and they got that chance, and they delivered in a big way. And they're going back to Omaha, and they're bringing this program back to where it once was, I think. There was a little lull there, but I think Jay Johnson has this program going in the right direction. And, all those LSU fans, I joke about my next door neighbor who, a couple weeks ago, they lost a couple SEC series. They stink. Their bullpen is bad. Guess what? Their bullpen did pretty damn well the last 2 weekends. Everyone has to admit that. And, again, just to see those players that were getting their final shot at Alex Box Stadium last night, it was something special, and it's one I won't forget. And even though I didn't get to see a game, but I was out there, it was quite the experience. And I hope they can make a little run, make it fun. Even if they don't win the national title, make a little run and extend their careers one more game any chance they get.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun to watch them. And just reiterate, if anyone is looking to go up there for the College World Series, check out Harris Council Bluffs. It's close by. I mean, it's in a different state, but it's literally like 2 miles from the stadium. It's a 10-minute drive. In fact, you could. I was looking this up. You could even walk there. There's a pedestrian bridge across the Missouri River.
Oh, that's
like
nice.
It's like a 40-minute walk. I mean, it's not a short walk, but you could theoretically do it if you wanted to do that. So check out Harris Council Bluffs, and I think they're sold out for this coming weekend, but they do have rooms for next week, and they've got another property, the Horseshoe, just a couple miles further east into Iowa, but still just like a 15-minute drive from the ballpark, and they've got rooms every night. So if you're trying to get up there, it's a difficult trip to plane. Check it out, Harris Council Bluffs, and they've helped us out. Caesar Sportsbook, they've got it there. And by the way, you can't bet on sports in Nebraska. Like they're in that funny stage of they've legalized it, but they haven't approved it yet.
Where we were 2 years ago
for a little while, but in Iowa you can. So if you stay in Iowa, you have that bonus too. If you watch the show, you're probably interested in that. So,
40-minute walk there. That takes me back to, I think the 40-minute walk was how far I had to go to find shoes in Vegas when we went for the draft.
I remember that. A 40-minute
that I could
walk
afford,
is
by the way,
when you don't have good shoes on. So
there's zero question about that. Yeah. Gotta have good shoes. That is a fact. You got to have good shoes
on the way back if you're tired or it's late at night or something.
No, it was fine. I had new shoes then. I threw the other ones in the garbage. Walked back. I was fine then.
All right, that'll do it for us. We'll be back at 4:00 on Thursday. We'll do a full College World Series preview. NBA Finals Game 6 would be that night. I don't think either one of us thinks.
Don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah,
it would be that night, and that would certainly talk about that if that happens. So, and the fantasy roundup tomorrow with Spencer the Guru and Gabe Henderson at 4:00 on Tuesday. Same channels, same Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. For our producer Zoe Collins Rath and Jim Derry, I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching. I got to play the outro music, don't I? Thank you.